I could have been a statistic that's on track to double within the next 10 years, a statistic that's ruining families, ruining children, are the future leaders of our generation, of our country, of the world. It's ruining men. And this statistic is men's suicide rate. There's 132 suicides a day, on average about one every 11 minutes, 10 minutes. Men are almost 4 times as likely to kill themselves compared to women. So of those 132, about 100 of those are men. So there's a man killing himself every 15 minutes. And that racks up to about 35,000 men a year killing themselves. And almost 2 million attempting to kill themselves. And I could have been one of them. You see, growing up, I've had issues with anxiety. I've had issues with depression. At the time, I really didn't understand why. Looking back, reflecting on it, I realized that, I've had like trust issues because of the friends I've hung out with. I couldn't really like trust anybody because I felt like if I make friends with somebody, they're probably going to backstab me or they're going to talk shit behind my back. And so that led to me being depressed. And with that depression, nothing felt good anymore. I felt life was meaningless. So I would try to numb myself from the pain, from the emotional turbulence that I'm dealing with. So I did everything I could to deal with it. I'd go on like Pornhub, just jerking off like 4 or 5 times a day just to get my mind off it, so I could at least get some sort of enjoyment during my day doing something. I'd come home from school and I'd spend hours on Minecraft, hours on COD, because at least in these virtual worlds, I'm actually decent. I'm not a loser like I am in real life. I'm actually the best of the best in these virtual worlds. So why would I want to spend time in the real world? Why would I want to spend time getting rejected by people, getting backstabbed by people, when I could be in these video games destroying my competition? And once I discovered weed, bro, it's a different story, because now every day can be dealt with as long as I have a blunt. As long as I smoke a couple grams a day, then everything is fine, because the weed is masking all this depression that I feel. So at least I feel good, my life can be miserable. I can hate my life. I can want to end myself any second. But this weed is keeping me stable. This weed is stopping me from doing that. It caused me to get addicted to weed, to drugs. That led to Xans. That led to other shit, bro. Lean, Adderall, whatever you can think of, bro. I've tried it all because, once weed got boring, I need something else to keep me stimulated, something else to keep my mind off of ending myself. I could have been a statistic, and I'm not the only one. There's hundreds of thousands of men around the world dealing with these same issues, dealing with mental illness. They hate their lives. They want to end their lives. 2 million men are wanting to end their lives every single year, but nobody seems to care. Where's all the support for men saying, you go king, you're worth more than how social media treats you. You're worth more than how these fake toxic ass friends treat you. But there's nobody around to help. And there's so many problems, bro, I can get into. The first one is lack of role models. Men don't have father figures anymore. And it's been statistically proven that men who don't have fathers, they're more likely to commit crimes. They're more likely to commit robberies, rape, sexual assault, whatever you can think of, bro. They're more likely to drop out of school and go like work a dead job. They're more likely to get into violence, gangs, drugs and shit. All because they don't have a father figure to look up to, because their fathers have been emasculated by society. We live in a generation now that men don't want to get married, because why wouldn't you want to get married in this generation? When you know you can lose custody of your kids, you can lose all of your money just by marrying the wrong woman, and it's messing up children. These children don't have father figures when they're growing up in single mother households. There's 11 million families raised by single parents, and 80% of them are single mothers. And to be honest, women can raise children, but they cannot raise a man to be a man. They cannot teach a boy to become a man. That has to be the role of the father. And without father, these little boys that are growing up without fathers, their confidence is low, their ambition is low, their drive to become a strong masculine figure in life, That's all gone because they don't have a father to look up to. They don't have a proper masculine man to look up to. I've seen this with my own two eyes, bro. Like, I have friends who have fathers in their life. Either they're absent fathers, or like they have fathers but they're like deadbeat. They don't really like, you can't really classify them as a father because they're so useless. They're so emasculated. I've seen them grow up, bro, and I've seen how much of a bitch they've become because they don't have that strong backbone to raise them, to treat them right, to treat them how they're supposed to be treated, how they're supposed to be raised. And you have a bunch of boys that don't really mature, that are always like constantly whining around and shit. Of course, like, men are going to be weak because they don't have that strong foundation early on built by fathers. You know, the issue with our society is the way we raise our children in the education system. You cannot treat boys and girls the same, bro. You know, from a young age, bro, girls are already a lot smarter than boys. They can sit and listen to their teachers speaking, and they can understand what their teachers are saying because that's the frame that they're operating, like the feminine frame, just like sit down and listen. Boys don't want to do that, bro. Boys just want to run around and get into fights and shit, go run around in the mud and shit, do shit like hands-on physical shit. So when you have like these little boys like running around and you force them to sit 6 hours a day on mindless education that, you know, it's beneficial for them as kids, but later on when you're doing this for like 12, 13, 14 years straight, indoctrinating them to shut up, sit down, and take orders like a little bitch, what do you think is going to happen to the men of our generation? The men are going to grow up as pussies, bro. And there's studies that prove this, bro. Like, I'm not just making this shit up out of my ass. Like, there's been studies that show that girls do great in the classroom environment, but when you put boys in the same environment, they struggle because it's not the same. You can't raise boys and girls the same. They need to be taught differently, bro, because just the way how like girls and boys' brains work. But instead, you throw them all into one classroom together, and all the boys are struggling while all the girls are excelling. You're setting these little boys up for failure from the start. Not to mention, you have the gifted category, and you have like the labels that the school puts on kids who are naturally smart that make other kids who aren't gifted, who aren't labeled as gifted, they feel retarded now because it's like, man, I can't sit and listen like the rest of my peers. What do you think that happens to their self-esteem, their confidence? It's already low to begin with because they don't have father figures. Now it's even lower. How are you going to help these boys now? They don't have father figures. Now they're not doing well in school. It's like you're setting these boys up for failure. And they're only like 5 years old, 6 years old. Then once they do grow up, here's another thing too. Once they do grow up, they're starting to get demonized for showing traits of masculinity, for showing traits of aggressiveness, assertiveness, taking action. Like this trend of like masculinity is toxic masculinity shit. It's such bullshit, bro, because you don't go around saying feminism is toxic, you know, women raising girls, that's toxic, bro. I don't want you to be feminine. I don't want you to raise children. I want you to be a man. You know how ridiculous that sounds if I start saying that, if I start telling women stop having children because that's too feminine. But you want to do the same thing when a man takes charge of his life, when he takes action and puts his purpose before everything else. You want to call that toxic masculinity. It doesn't work like that. Double standards just go crazy. These boys are growing up feeling like they're ashamed, like they shouldn't be running around, they shouldn't be rowdy, they shouldn't be, you know, causing a scene, causing an commotion and shit. And so they grow up and they live so passively that they get washed up, bro, by like the kids who are actually allowed to be aggressive and shit. You can't try and mess around with Mother Nature, bro. Mother Nature intended men to be masculine. Mother Nature intended women to be feminine. And you try to alter that, you're going to fuck up a whole generation of kids. These men that grow up, they have no drive in them. They have no competitiveness. They have no edge. You know, they go through life like with a limp dick, bro, like metaphorically speaking, like a limp dick. So it's no wonder that they have all these mental health issues. One last thing I wanted to mention was like the rise of cuck culture, bro. Everybody's becoming a cuck now. Everybody's becoming a simp. Everybody wants to subscribe to OnlyFans models and shit. you know, giving away their giving away like their hard-earned money to like these thoughts online, bro. And people want to blame like the OnlyFans models for this, like, oh, you know, if these OnlyFans models they didn't exist, then I wouldn't be spending my money and shit. Like these boys, maybe men wouldn't be spending their monies and shit, simping and shit. But you can't blame women for that, bro, because these men are weak. So if these men are weak, women have every right to take advantage of them. It's becoming such a trend to become a cuck, bro, to let like your significant other have sex with like somebody else. That is honestly, first off, that's disgusting as hell. If you're a cuck, bro, I have no respect for you at all. The second, it's like, you know, it's not even just like the porn industry shit. You have like rappers and shit talking about how they fuck like women and shit, and this is all you're listening to. You're listening to other men speak about how many women they fuck, and it's like conditioning you to become a cuck and shit. Like really ridiculous if we think about it, but nobody wants to talk about it. Nobody wants to say anything about it. You know, you mentioned something about rappers and shit. It's like, oh, but you know, rappers make me feel good and shit. And it's something I struggle with too, because I love rap music, bro. Literally, rap music saved me at one point, because it's really like nice to listen to other rappers like Juice WRLD or X talk about their own depression and mental health when you're struggling with mental health as well. But you need to realize that whatever you're putting into your head, whatever you're putting into your mind is going to affect your consciousness. So when you're listening to men talk about fucking bitches all day, that's going to affect your psyche and make you attracted to that, attracted to men fucking your wife, fucking your significant other and shit. I think like the biggest problem our society is facing is our lack in testosterone, bro. Our average testosterone is between 200 and 800 nanograms per deciliter. That is the equivalent of a 60-year-old man's testosterone from 50 years ago. This is normal for our generation. Everybody wants to eat these plant-based diets and shit. You know, everybody wants to eat carbohydrates and shit that like fuck up their mental health, like make them like lazy and shit. When, you know, you can eliminate so many problems by going on like, you know, whatever carnivore diet, ketogenic diet, just eliminating processed shit, eating like how our ancestors would eat, eating like vegetables, fruits, meats, dairy, stuff that you can find naturally, not cereal, bro. Tell me where you're gonna find cereal growing in nature. Tell me where you're gonna find Snickers bars, Takis chips, bro, hot Cheetos laying around in nature. But you know, these are so much more accessible. Like they've made chips like $2 for a bag of chips compared to $10 for like a pound of meat. So if you can get 5 bags of chips for the same price as a pound of meat, and you get filled up more from those chips, people are going to want to buy these chips more and shit. So it's like the food they're eating is decreasing their testosterone. They're not even going outside. Like 20% of all people are like vitamin D deficient, which is really like hard to believe, because to be vitamin D deficient means you're not getting enough sunlight, and you only need about 30 minutes of sunlight every other day to get enough vitamin D. So the average man's not even getting their like minimum dosage. So if you're not getting 30 minutes of vitamin D, bro, like how much time are you spending indoors like a hermit, bro? Not getting any sunlight through your skin. The food they eat is shit. The way they live is shit. They're jerking off to porn. They're playing video games. They're staying in their rooms all day, not going outside, not talking to people. Because how can they? They don't even have the confidence to talk to people. They don't have like the drive to talk to people. There's like microplastics and like the clothes they wear, the food they eat. That's like also like affecting their testosterone. So of course, bro, like of course men are gonna be weak, but nobody seems to care. And so because nobody cares, it's up to you to take charge, to take responsibility, to become a more masculine man, because nobody's gonna come and save you. You know, you can rely on the doctors to give you more prescription drugs, more medication, more therapy and shit, but it's not gonna help if you don't take responsibility. You can take all the insulin in the world, bro. Eventually you're gonna pass out from a heart attack, because humans aren't supposed to be taking all these drugs, all these prescription drugs. You need to stop blaming women. Women are not the enemy. I don't care if you've been finessed by women on OnlyFans. I don't care if your ex-girlfriend cheated on you. I don't care, bro. You can't blame these women for that, because you let them. At the end of the day, because of the way you act, because of your lack of masculinity, these women took advantage of you. And so it's your fault. And you need to start taking more responsibility, because it's your job as a man to raise children properly so that we can make our generation strong. We can make, our country strong, bro. Like, our country is weak. If we went to war right now, we are dead. We're so fucked if we go to war right now, because the men of our generation can't fight. And so it's up to us to become strong, take matters into our own hands. And so we can raise our generation to be strong. You take matters into your own hands and find purpose, bro. Purpose is going to save your life, because purpose is what stops you from wanting to end your life. When you have purpose, you know what you're destined to be doing, because you have a mission in life to fulfill. And if you're not going to fulfill it, your own mind is going to tell you that you're fucking up. It's going to make you feel anxiety. It's going to make you feel depression, because you know what you're supposed to be doing in life and you're just pushing it aside because you don't have the drive or you don't have the energy, and it's going to haunt you. Literally, if you want to change your life in 30 days, all you have to do is just go outside for like half an hour a day, eat like 4 eggs a day, eat like as much meat as you can, as much vegetables as you can. Forget all this processed shit, bro. Forget porn, forget video games, forget drugs, forget all of that external stimulation. Just focus on like existing, focus on like improving your health. Go work out, go do like martial arts and shit. Build connections, build a brotherhood of like a network of brothers you can rely on, that you know are going to have your back, and they're not going to backstab you, they're not going to talk shit about you, that you can depend on if your life really depended on it. Have a family, bro. Like, start your family and actually be present in your family, raise your family, be there and lead your family. And what you'll find is that if you do all those things, you'll actually get your purpose back, you'll get your drive back, you'll become what you're destined for. You're destined for so much more, but you're holding yourself back. You're handicapping yourself before you even started. And I know you're watching this, you're young right now, so you have your whole life ahead of you. So if you start now, you have time, bro. It's not too late. It's not too late to make a difference in your life. It's not too late to make a difference in other people's lives. So you need to start now. We really like have this shift, bro. Like, masculinity is declining. Men aren't men anymore. Men are becoming more feminine and shit. Women are becoming more masculine and shit. Like, the world's so backwards and shit. And of course, there's men who have natural feminine tendencies and women have like masculine traits and shit. That's completely natural. But 90% of the men who are acting like this, 90% of the men who are like cucks and shit, acting all like little bitches, bro, 90% of them would fix all their problems in their life if they actually became a man. And you can't do that with society, because society has failed, bro. You need to take matters into your own hands. You need to take action. And that all starts with you.